Welcome to this video where we'll be talking about Ananda Vardhana. It is Dhvani that we are going to talk about, the structure of poetic meaning from Ananda Vardhana's Dhvanyaloka. Ananda Vardhana says that there are three types of kavya. He graded the entire body of kavya into three classes. Number one, Dhvani kavya, which is the poetry that suggests, as the true kavya, the best or the uttama, where Dhvani, the unspoken suggestive element, is dominant. The second type of kavya is called as the Gunabhuta, which is also called as Vangmaya kavya, well endowed descriptive poetry, as the Madhyama, the middle type of poetry, where Dhvani is secondary to Alankara. Here, Alankaras dominate Dhvani, and hence it is Madhyama, and serves as a decoration for the spoken or expressed meaning. And the third type is called as the Chitrakavya, which is the poetry that suggests structured into various patterns or drawings, as the least or the Adhama Kavya, which depends entirely on the verbal play of its elegance and elaboration, and where Dhvani, the suggestive power of poetry, is completely absent. So Anandavardhana talks about Dhvani Kavya as the Uttama Kavya, where Dhvani dominates, Gunabhuti Vangmaya Kavya as the Madhyama Kavya, where Alankaras dominate, and Chitra Kavya as the Adhama Kavya, where Dhvani is completely absent. For example, the best example of Dhvani Kavya that I understand is a typical expression of Antony in Julius Caesar, where after Caesar's murder, once Brutus completes his speech, Antony stands up to deliver his speech, which is completely filled with Dhvani Kavya. On the screen, I have an excerpt of his speech. Let me read it out and explain what Dhvani Kavya is. Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. I come to bury Caesar, not to praise him. The evil that men do lie lives after them. The good is oft interred with their bones. So let it be with Caesar. The noble Brutus had told you Caesar was ambitious. If it were so, it was a grievous fault, and grievously had Caesar answered it. Here, under leave of Brutus and the rest, for Brutus is an honorable man. Now, there is a pun in Brutus is an honorable man. He's bringing about one fact after another of Julius Caesar and his goodness, and still says that Brutus is not to be blamed for murdering Caesar, for Brutus is an honorable man. So there are they all honorable men? Come, I speak in Caesar's funeral. He was my friend, faithful and just to me. But Brutus says he was ambitious, and Brutus is an honorable man. He had brought many captives home to Rome, whose ransoms did the general's coffers fill. Did this in Caesar seem ambitious? When the poor have cried, Caesar hath wept. Ambition should be made of sterner stuff. Yet Brutus says he was ambitious, for Brutus is an honorable man. You all did see that on the Lupercal I thrice presented him a kingly crown, which he did thrice refuse. Was this ambition? Yet Brutus says he was ambitious, and sure, he is an honorable man. Don't you find the pun in it? Don't you find the suggestion in it? I speak not to disapprove what Brutus spoke, but here I am to speak what do I know. You all did love him once, not without cause. What cause withholds you then to mourn for him? O judgment, thou art fell to brutish breasts, and men have lost their reason. Bear with me. My heart is in the coffin there with Caesar, and I must pause till it come back to me. I praise not Caesar. I agree with Brutus, yet Brutus says he was ambitious, and sure, he is an honorable man. The entire speech that is delivered by Antony is completely with Dhvani Kavya, where every word is suggestive. Here is the example of Guni Bhuta Vangmaya Kavya, which is the Madhyama Kavya according to Anandavardhana. Here, it is not Dhvani that is dominating, but it is the Alankaras that are dominating. The best example is, my love is like a red, red rose. All of you must have read this. My love is like a red, red rose, simile, that's newly sprung in June. Another simile, my love is like the melody that sweetly played in tune. Third simile, so fair art thou, my bonny lass, fourth simile, so deep in love I am, and I will love thee still, my dear, till all the seas gang dry, hyperbole. Till all the seas gang dry, my dear, and the locks melt with the sun, and hyperbole. I will love thee still, my dear, while the sands of life shall run, a third hyperbole. And fare thee well, my only love, and fare thee well, I will. And I will come again, my love, though it were 10,000 miles. Again, a hyperbolic expression with four hyperboles and four similes. The poet has beautifully expressed his love towards his beloved. But the words here are not suggestive. The words completely are figurative and use figures of speech. As an example of Chitrakavya, let's take Daffodils by Wordsworth. I wandered lonely as a cloud that floats on high over vales and hills. A figure of speech. When all at once I saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils beside the lake and beneath the trees and fluttering and dancing in the breeze. You are getting a picture of what the poet wants to say. Continuous as the stars that shine and twinkle on the Milky Way, they stretched in never ending line along the margin of a bay. And thousands saw I at a glance, tossing their heads in sprightly dance. You have a hyperbolic expression and when he says in 10,000. And otherwise, the entire picture is in front of us as if the daffodils are fluttering and dancing. The waves beside them danced, but they outdid the sparkling waves in glee. A poet could not but be gay in such a jocund company. I gazed and gazed, but little thought what wealth a show to me had brought. The entire picture is given to us. For oft when on my coach I lie in vacant or in pensive mood, they flash upon that inward eye which is the bliss of solitude, and then my heart with pleasure dances with the daffodils. The entire sonnet, in fact, presents us a picture. That's why it is Chitrakavya. It doesn't. It has a few alankaras, figures of speech, but the words are not suggestive. They show us the picture, which will be the Adhamakavya. So pictorial is Adhamakavya, Alankaras and full of Alankaras is Madhyamakavya, Alankaras and picture with Dhvani is the beautiful Kavya, the best Kavya according to Ananda Vardhana. He also has identified three kinds of Dhvani. Vastu Dhvani, arising from matter, Alankara Dhvani, arising from figures of speech, and Rasa Dhvani, arising from emotion. Yani Rasa Dhvani is it is like onomatopoeia. The moment you read it, you get the emotion of it, which is the best type of Dhvani. It may be a thing, Vastu Dhvani, when he says some rare fact or idea or event or occurrence is implied. In Alankara Dhvani, figures of speech are responsible for suggestion. And in Rasa Dhvani, the third type of Dhvani is the most important type of Dhvani according to Anandavardhana. It is called Rasa Dhvani, wherein rasa or flavor or emotion or mood or sentiment is evoked while you are reading the words. Rasa is an ideal and impersonalized form of joy. Rasa can only be suggested but not described. And this suggestion is obtained from the suggestion of the words. And that's why it's called Rasa Dhvani. For him, both Vastu Dhvani and Alankara Dhvani can be expressed by direct meaning, which is called Vachyartha, and by suggestion, Vyangyartha. But the third variety, the Rasadhvani, cannot be expressed through the direct meaning of the words, nor in words that are commonly used in day to day life. Loka Vyavahara also cannot express the Rasadhvani. What can express? The Rasadhvani, the most important type of dhvani, consists in suggesting bhava, the feelings or sentiments. The Rasadhvani, emotion is conveyed through Vyanjaka or suggestion as differentiated from Abhidha and Lakshana. It is through suggestion of the words that emotion is evoked. And according to Anandavardhana, the element of rasa has to reside in the poet himself, in his creation of kavya, and in the reader, the enjoyer. Now, this should be evoked while the poet has written it and the reader is reading somewhere in between. The poet has to be inspired, charged with emotion to create a poetry that comes alive with suggestion, dhvani. The poet is the first reader of his kavya and the first one to experience rasa from its dhvani sensitivities. For instance, Adikavi Valmiki was so intensely hurt and saddened by the wailing of curlew birds whose mate was shot dead by a hunter in the woods, that his grief, shoka, poured out into a verse, shloka, automatically filled with pathos that became the rasa of Ramayana. Anandavardhana maintained that experience of rasa comes through the unraveling of the suggested sense, dhvani. It is through dhvani that rasa arises, and hence it is called rasadhvani. Dhvani principle is the umbrella term for auchitya, propriety, alankara or the figure of speech, and guna, the virtues, dosha, the flaws in poetry. The aesthetic experience or rasa is the soul of poetry, the mode in which the body of the poetry reveals. It is dhvani or suggestion. The harmonious accordance of the body and the soul is auchitya, propriety. Rasa, dhvani, auchitya are the prasthatri. Prasthatri is the three fundamental principles of Kavya Shastra to provide unalloyed pleasure, ananda, to the readers by evoking the rasa. Hence, the epithet Kavyasya Atma Dhvani resonates with Kavyasya Atma Rasaha. When we look into the examples of Dhvani in literature, the metaphysical poetry that leaves much to the imagination and interpretation of the reader is full of Dhvani. Haiku, where the brevity of verse hints at a deeper, often unspoken truth, is a typical example of Dhvani in literature. Symbolistic poetry, as you could find in the modern poetry of T.S. Eliot or W.B. Yeats or W.H. Auden, where symbols are used to suggest the ideas and emotions indirectly, are the best examples of Dhvani in literature. These are some more examples from literature. In spite of the fact that Dhvani, Rasa Dhvani especially received much popularity, it has seen criticism also. Many scholars did not entirely agree with Anandavardhana's exposition of Dhvani. Those who criticized his view include Bhattanayaka, Kuntaka, Mahima Bhatta, Dhananjaya, Bhoja, Rajashekara, Vishwanatha, and a few others. The questions raised were, if Guna and Alankara are left out, what else is there to lend beauty to Kavya? If it is argued that Guna and Alankara are different from Dhani, how can they be said to produce beauty at all? So, Guna theory and Alankara theory cannot stand at all. Many seem to accept Dhvani, but as a secondary function. It is rasa that is important. However, you get, may it be through gunas, may it be through alankaras, may it be through dhvani. The rasa achievement is what is more important in the Indian aesthetics. And in conclusion, we can say Anandavardhana's Dhvani theory emphasizes that the true beauty of poetry lies in its suggestion rather than the direct expression. He posits that poetry achieves its highest form when it conveys emotions and ideas through implied meanings which resonates with the reader's mind. This theory distinguishes Vachya and Vyangya for aesthetic experience. Anandavardhana's work Dhvanyaloka revolutionized the Indian poetics by highlighting the role of suggestion in poetry, inspiring future discussions in literary criticism and Indian aesthetics. We find much similarity of Anandavardhana's Dhvanyaloka to modern new criticism and structuralism as well as post-structuralism in the Western world. Thank you very much for being a part of this video. Hope you have enjoyed it and understood Anandavardhana's Dhvanyaloka. See you in the next video. Bye for now.